lay you to rest. Right, let's start with the unboxing. So this customer bought this engine as a brand new build from someone else, and he stuck it in his car, drove it for about 5 minutes. He said he just started driving it, took it out for one turn, up and down, and then he heard a funny noise. He stopped it immediately before anything happens, anything gets damaged, and then he stuck his old engine back in and took it for a whirl. Okay, so there is some oil and stuff here. The exhaust obviously leaked a little bit. Is there still a gasket on there? Turning the engine over, looking inside. Seems alright there. It's got a high rev piston in it. I can see the top cut from King Motor. There's no major damage, major scratches or anything. I can't see anything there. Carburetor is a Walbro 997. So my first check before I turn this thing is the coil. I'm assuming, my first thought was that the coil came off or came loose and just dropped on the flywheel, and that could make a hell of a noise, but let's check it out. Okay, full start is intact, coil seems intact, and its spacing is correct. There's no real scratches on the flywheel. Okay, everything seems okay. I can't see any problems. Checking the crankcase bearings. Nothing. This side. Nothing. There's no play. There's always a little bit of in and out play, but up and down I can't really see anything. So let's get some fuel into this thing and start it up and see what we hear. Radio! It's all mounted up, ready to roll. Fuel in the tank. Let's primer up. I see there's an aluminium intake manifold here, pretty nice. Choke on. Choke off. Okay, I'm gonna have to take this outside. 1.5, open on the high end. Alright, let's choke it. There she fires up. Not lacquer, and inside I hear like a clack, 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 clack. I hear like a metal noise inside. I'm gonna have to take the cylinder off and see what's happening inside. I do see something that looks like tiny little marks on top of the piston, as if there's a piece of metal inside and it sat on top of the piston and it knocked tiny little punch holes into the piston. But we will shortly see what it is. Whoops. Okay, so what it looked like it was true. So if you can see there, tiny pieces of metal, and you can see little dents on the cylinder there. Let me just inspect the cylinder. Okay, I don't find any scratch marks on the cylinder. It's just those pieces of metal at the top. And let's look at the top of the piston here. Yep, check there. Nice dents all the way around as that piece of metal was running around. So I got to now see where it came from. If it was bearing or spacer or something, let me investigate. Okay, the ring is not fine. The ring is solid. There it's moving a little bit. It doesn't want to move. This side, something came through here. Okay, so I see scratch marks there. I see a scratch mark going up here, and then it clipped the ring. So the ring here on the left, it won't budge. Oh, there's another scratch mark there. Also, so something came past here, there and there. And now I can't get it off. This is not how you remove a ring. the ring seems okay, but the piston is not. There's cuts out of it. That obviously did damage there. Something big is gone through there and then broke off. Okay, so this got to be washed out. I see the port there in here got a little bit of a nick. Other than that, not too bad. The cylinder is smooth. The cylinder is nice. Let's pull this piston off. Aha. Problem found. The bearing disintegrated. That bearing literally broke. There's the little pin bearings, or yeah. Let's check this pin out. Pin seems fine. Alright, so the piston needs replacing. Bunch of scratches down there. So what I think possibly happened is it could have been the compression, the squish at the top. So maybe it was too small of a gap. Engine got hot, and as it started banging the top, the crank obviously puts a lot of pressure on this little bearing, and then this bearing collapsed, and that shavings went through the engine. Boom. Cool. Let's give our report to the owners and take it from there. Dum dum da dum dum da dum da dum dum dum. We lay you to rest. Right, so I have given the report back to the owner of this engine, and he has said it's a good to go to rebuild. So all I need to replace on this thing is the piston, ring, and pin bearing. The new piston will come with new C-clips, internal C-clips, and a new gudgeon pin. So I'm just going to replace that. But what we are going to do here is I am going to measure the squish to see if it was a little bit high or if it was good. This head does have a gasket on. As you know, in my previous videos, I've mentioned that I remove the gasket on a lot of engines because it ups the squish and then your compression ratio. You get a lot more power out of that engine. But if we do that and we push it too far, once this engine heats up and everything sets out, that piston can hit the top and then you got problems. So what I'm going to do, as you saw also in my previous video, I am going to put this piston in the right way around this time to measure the squish. So let's get to it. Okay, so I am pushing as hard as I can all the way to the top. I just want to make sure the piston stays in its position. Looks like that is quite stable. I'm going to move that to 0. Boom, like that. Tighten it up. Let's bolt this baby on. A little bit of a trick here when I put these internal C-clips in, if they don't have any clips. I always put the C-clip that's closest to the flywheel on first, so that when I install, I don't have to struggle with a little C-clip over a flywheel that's got a very strong magnet. So I always put that C-clip in first while I've got the piston in my hand, and then once I put it on, then I've got a lot of space on this side to put the other C-clip in. It's just what I do. You don't have to do that. Alright, so I just tighten it up with 2 bolts, just hand tight. It doesn't have to be a torque wrench or anything. And then let's see the results. So the engine will be spinning that way. We are going up and we are aiming for 0. Dude, this thing is hitting the top. So I don't know if there's a difference maybe in the piston. It could be. Alright, here's for the true test. Let's do the true test. I'm going to put the old piston back. Boom. Then we can check. Maybe we can find out what happened here, people. Okay, first for the old piston, I'm going to have to set top of the top. So let's stick that in there. Okay, that's it. Now we install it. I obviously don't need internal C-clips or anything on this thing, because it's just gonna be in and out. Alright, the moment of truth has arrived. Let's check it out together. 0 is over here. Ping, 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 ping. Oh, whoa. Dude. So one turn of the dial from 0 to 0 is 3 mils. So that gives me an average of 30 here is 1 millimeter. So that means a third of 1 millimeter will be a 0.3 squish. So each 10 increments I've got here is 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. It might be a little bit more. So what you want to end up with is actually a 10, which is a 0.3 squish. Because you can push it to 0.2, but that's your limit. So this engine ends up on on that 10 mark. So that gives us a 0.3 squish, which is a perfect squish. I don't know if the bearing crashed because the squish was too high, which I don't think it was. The bearing possibly collapsed due to maybe a small fracture or something in manufacturing in the bearing, a weak spot, something like that. It could have been dropped, causing little cracks or something like that. So it's difficult to say, but I don't think it was the compression that broke the bearing. So let's get that same squish on the new piston. Right, so I put another gasket in. This gasket seems quite thick. I'm not sure what manufacturer this was not Rovan, but I decided to put this one first, and it seems like it's quite a lot thicker than the other gaskets. So I put a Rovan Sports paper gasket on here, and we have, check there, we have just below the 10 mark. So that would give us a third of a centimeter, which is 0.3. So this is a very good squish. That's a perfect squish. That's a nice squish. I almost sound like Donald Trump. So I'm going to go with this, tighten it up with all 4 bolts, and we're going to give it a rip. Rightio, she is complete. I had to put an extra washer into these 2 bolts here because it was pushing out of the back of this aluminium intake. What happens then is it pushes the carb away, so it doesn't make a proper seal. So I just put another washer in there because there's still space for us to do that. So let's hook this up to some fuel, put an exhaust on it, and see what happens. Let's see what happens. Ooh. I deem that a success. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this engine lacquer hot. Firstly, I've got to put a clutch bell carrier on here so I don't break this clutch. And then I'm going to rev it up a bit so that we can get some heat in it, make the stuff expand, and see what the customer will experience when he puts this in his car. And hopefully this engine gives him a lot of joy for a long time. Cool, this is Bueno from Easy Trade Racing. Playtime has never been this easy. I'll see you in the next video.
Way back a year ago,